Supreme Court on Monday agreed to hear special counsel Jack Smith's request to take up Donald Trump's presidential immunity claim. Smith made an unusual request Monday, asking the Supreme Court to rule quickly on whether Trump was immune from prosecution in his 2020 election interference case. Trump has asked an appeals court to weigh in on the question of his immunity as a former president, which means the March trial is on hold. But now the Supreme Court will make a decision in the case first.
Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So I know that we've been talking a lot about Jack Smith lately, and we've been talking a lot about his hopes for the Supreme Court to come to his aid and basically help him live out his fantasy of saving the world from another Donald Trump presidency. Because that's all this is. That's what this is in a nutshell. But we got to do one more video, and we have to do it because we still have a lot of confused liberal friends. And I know that they pretty much stay confused. They are a perpetually confused and deluded bunch. I'm aware of that. That's sort of their charm, I guess, if they have any. And, that really, I guess it's really what makes them, and more importantly, keeps them a liberal. But here's where they're confused. I know you guys get it, but here's where they're confused. They believe that the Supreme Court is right now, as we speak, rushing through a decision on whether or not Donald Trump has or had or ever will have presidential immunity. They're not. That is not what they're doing. They have agreed only to expedite their decision on whether or not they will even hear that argument. And usually it takes, so here's why this is special. Usually it takes a very, very long time to get your decision before the court. There's all sorts of process, and there's a lot of people basically in line in front of you. They have asked, they've been asked to expedite the process to decide. And that's what they're doing. So they've made the deadline tomorrow for both sides to get arguments in. And after that, and only after that, the Supreme Court will decide whether or not it is justified or prudent to allow the government to short circuit the appeals process. And let me know in the comments if this is or isn't making sense. And let's give everyone's favorite attorney. I found a good video that I think will probably clear it up for just about anyone who wants to listen. My favorite attorney, at least. Give her one more chance to explain it. I think she's got some pretty devastating viewpoints.
Leader Jack Smith understands double jeopardy, or for that matter, anything to do with the U.S. Constitution. Joining us now, Donald Trump attorney Alina Haba. Alina, thank you for coming back on. So this guy Smith, so now, everyone knows what the agenda is. In order to short circuit this, keep former President Trump either in a courtroom or worse, in jail. But, number one, he is trying to avoid the federal district court and go straight to the Supreme Court with his case. I want to get your take on that first up.
So what you have to argue there is that there is some sort of real sense of urgency. There is an urgency where we have to now bypass the appellate division. We can't go through the normal course of process in the court system. And let's just go right up to the Supreme Court, Larry. The only urgency that I can see is that there is an election in November 2024, and they can't beat him. So for Jack Smith to be putting his play-by-play on display in such clear, unequivocal manner, I mean, everyone can see what it is. It is election interference at its finest. They can't beat him in the ballots, so they're going to have to either, lie, cheat, steal, or the newest is lawfare. Put him in jail, tie him up, and you have to remember, in these criminal trials, he has to sit there. He has to be there every single day.
That's key case. That's what they're really trying to do.
100%.
They don't want him out campaigning, because the more he campaigns, probably the better he's going to do. Right. So they want to keep him holed up in a courtroom.
Right. It's actually playing against them. He's getting a lot of voters that he normally wouldn't get because they're seeing this, and he is the victim all of a sudden. They've made him a victim of complete and utter election interference and lawfare. It's un-American.
The Supreme Court asked you or asked the Trump legal team for a quick response on this. I was surprised at that.
Yeah, I think that, you can read that both ways. It cuts both ways. You could either interpret it as they want a quick response because it's a non-issue and they're not going to take it up, or they want a quick response because this needs to be shut down because there are so many other cases where they're trying to do this.
Right.
I don't know what's going on in their minds, but I do have faith in the Supreme Court. I think that those justices are really take their office seriously, and we've seen that time and time again with them, especially recently.
The Constitution makes it pretty clear that you cannot have double jeopardy. So the president had been tried once and was not convicted, okay? He was acquitted. Now they want to go through the whole process again. I'm not sure people understand the double jeopardy argument, which most people think is very clear in the Constitution.
Right. No two bites of the apple. That's what it is in plain English. No two bites of the apple. You can't go after somebody once, lose, and then try again and modify it. In this terms, what they're going to do is modify it and say, okay, we went after you. We couldn't get you on the facts, so now we're going to call it obstruction of justice. Well, it's still the same facts, still the same set of facts that you got him on, and you tried to say that you could get him on, but you failed. And then they just modify it, put it in a different court, put it in front of a judge, in D.C. or that we think has shown us incredible bipartisan decisions. She's had people on J6 cases that are still sitting there waiting for trial. She has the hardest line when it comes to decisions. And this is all by design. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's all by design. They don't care about due process. They don't care about the election. They don't care about the Constitution. This is the problem that we're having. And they really need to put their robes and the law in front of their politics.
And the other thing that's interesting, the Supremes are going to take up the January 6th issue with respect to what's sometimes referred to as the Enron decision. That is, you can't bust somebody unless it's very clear that they were fiddling with documents or otherwise stopping the pursuit of justice. Now, this would favor Mr. Trump, or could favor Mr. Trump, but this just happened, so I'm not sure people are aware of this either.
Yeah, so you guys see that. You guys hear that. And you guys get that. But just to break it down just a tiny, tiny bit more for our liberal friends, because that's what this video is all about. The only thing the Supreme Court has agreed to hear is a petition to maybe hear more. And in the coming days, they're going to decide whether they're going to let the government skip the appellate court process and go right to the top. Basically, short circuit the entire thing. It's very unlikely that that's going to be allowed to happen because there really isn't any standing for it. There's no pressing timing that the government is up against. The only timing issue is the 2024 presidential election, which I can imagine the Supreme Court's not going to want to touch with a 10-foot pole. You see liberals all over the internet and all over mainstream media talking about this is the right to a speedy trial. That's the Sixth Amendment. This motion is not meant to protect Donald Trump's Sixth Amendment rights, I promise you. This is only meant to speed up, rush, and protect the government's own case. And, I really hadn't thought about what Alina Haba just said there, but I think she's right. I would bet you that is absolutely true. People are starting to see what is going on here as a victimization of a presidential candidate by a weaponized federal government. That is not a good place to be. And it's not just people on the right seeing this. But anyway, that's all I've got, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. We'll see you in the next one.